That was a long time ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Farley, tell us about your picture.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie got me all emotional. Not because of this picture, but because of what we went through in '08. As you know, Ford was, of the 3 domestic companies, the only one that didn't go bankrupt. And I can say, when I saw that video of the dealer, that the dealer saved our company. It was that simple. And Charlie was the head of the dealer council. So whenever someone comes up to me and says, you know, how did you not go bankrupt? A big part of that was Charlie and his leadership. And it was not easy. We had to make tough choices about invoices. And without that, we wouldn't have made it. So in the humblest way possible, Charlie, thank you for everything you've done for Ford and for all the Ford dealers. Yeah, so that car, I was 14 and a half. My grandfather was a Ford dealer. That didn't work out. So he went in the parts remanufacturing business. And so I got a job in California, a long way from Michigan. And I went out there to work for him, assembling engines. And I went to a Ford dealer, Sunset Ford. And they had this great program, it was in the 70s, where you could order a 1965 Mustang and configure it any way you want. And for those of you who know Sunset Ford, it had a big Willie the Whale, big inflatable blimp. And it was a really iconic place. And in the back, he had about 100 of these wrecked Mustangs. And I saw one, because I was working on the truck pulling cores, picking up cores from the dealers. And I said, I'd like to buy one of those cars. And he said, do you have a license? I said, no, I'm not quite 15. But he said, well, our cheapest one is this little black one, but its engine is ruined, and but for $500 you can buy it. So I bought it, and I slept in it. And I slept in the back of my grandfather's plant, and I rebuilt the engine over the summer. And then I drove it back to Michigan. I had not a license, insurance, no spare tire. In fact, I traded in my airplane ticket to buy the gas, and my parents were pretty surprised when I showed up. But so I guess I could say my whole life with cars has started with Ford. So I'm a pretty easy guy to figure out. So what I wanted to talk to you about today was the future of the franchise business as I see it from my perspective in the auto business at Ford. I want to thank NADA and J.D. Powers and, of course, all of you for being here and supporting us at Ford. And actually, when Larry called me, I don't know if you know Larry, but when Larry called me, I said, oh, geez, I have to be there. And when Charlie said, you know, it'd be really good if you could speak to the team, I said, absolutely. So here's what I want to talk to you about. In this day and age, we have all of this talk about disruption. And we all know the retail landscape is changing so much. The auto business is clearly ripe for picking for new companies to come in our space, or traditional companies to make different kinds of bets. And so in a way, the whole discussion about the industry has been over-indexing, in my opinion, on the OEs. And we haven't spent enough time talking about the retail space. Because for after decades of talking about change, I think we can all feel like it's on the other side of that invisible line of actually changing. And you know, that change is really key because there's a lot of potential for it to happen. I think, well, I'll talk about Ford in a second, but let me get into it. You know, you guys feel this more than anyone at a factory can about the disruptors. You know, starts in the used car business and direct model, and that's going where it's going. But what I feel is important is the success of the franchise system in the US is going to have to evolve in a meaningful way that is completely doable. I see that success being really hinges on adding value for the existing customers and moving away from conquest obsession, and focusing on nurturing those existing customers, and exploring new revenue opportunities like all entrepreneurs. Fritz, I mean, I can look around the room of the dealers I know, and what makes you guys special is your creativity. And I have no doubt that if we just apply that creativity to a few other new areas, we can be just as successful as a team as we have in the past. It's just different. Customers are not going to pay for waste. They're not going to pay for internal franchise issues. And the disruptors see the opportunity. So people are excited about that. And the growth of online retailing is impacting us. You can't deny it. You know, I read the other day, Best Buy is not going to sell CDs anymore. You know, look what happened to Blockbuster. And I don't believe people, some of the executives from other companies who said, you know, that the model we have today can't survive that. I don't agree with that. And here's why. But I'll talk to you about that in a second, but from 10 years from now, 25%, 60% of customers, I don't know what it's going to be. There's going to be a very large percentage of customers are going to buy online. I really believe that's going to happen. But I don't think it's going to change dramatically things. I think there's a lot we can do. People are visiting the dealership less often now, fewer dealerships. The purchase experience is too long. It has been for a long time. Now almost half of customers think it takes too long. 40% dislike haggling. At Scion, we tried to do one price. We learned a lot from that. I personally did. 30% people feel like the salespeople are too pushy. You know, the pain points are still there. So we got to shift to, in my opinion, a more female-forward, removing the friction. Time is a currency, like money, and trust. To me, the dealers that do that regularly are going to be the ones that have the best profit profile over time. So what do we have to do? Well, the first thing is that OE has to change. 90% of the OE's spending for distribution, like fixed marketing, advertising, variable marketing, 90% is conquest. 90%. We have the largest loyalty of any brand in the US, Ford. A lot of it has to do with our truck business, but we have very high loyalty. But our lead is narrowing. We're really seeing loyalty change. And so take it from the loyalty leader in the mainstream business. We have to divert our business to a loyalty model more and more. Repurchase is going to be more and more important for us. And right now, customer experience we don't see as a big differentiator. I believe that with integrated technology, data, processes, and good experience, passion from your team members, real connection with the community, advocacy, I really believe that the franchise system can excel in this environment that's changing so much. And the companies with customer-driven approaches that reward customers for staying in the brand, I think will win. I also want to say that I think advertising model has to change. I grew up in the 3-tier franchise model of marketing. It worked great. The OE does this, launch product mostly, does brand work. The dealer ad groups in the local community get people excited about the brand locally in a relevant way, and the individual dealer says, this is how I'm different. I grew up in that model. I love that model. But the reality is technology now allows us to go one-to-one in our marketing, and that changes everything. I believe the incentive model of the future is a private offer, specific to each customer. The technology is available to do it today. And when you can go private offer one-to-one for every customer, that really changes those 3 tiers. It really changes things. Do I know how it will change it exactly? I don't. But I do think it is a dramatically different model than we've had. The 3 tiers will still be there, absolutely. But how they complement each other, and how does one know what the other person's doing in the world of a private offer? So that data architecture, so everyone understands, is becoming more and more important. I also want to say that we have to evolve into more of a remote model. So more and more of the services we offer customers will have to take place outside of the 4 walls of our property. We've certainly learned that Lincoln is on an interesting journey. It's a very small brand. We don't want to be a huge brand. And what we've learned at doing pickup and delivery across the whole country and doing experiments, like right now we're filling people's cars up with gasoline for them while they work. We're doing a lot of small service pilots. People love it. They love when the brand comes to them. And guess what? 100% of the Fords that we start selling this year, 100% from here on forward will be connected. All the vehicles will be able to do the warranty, all the electronic warranty work over the air. It's not a Tesla. It's a mainstream company like Ford. That changes the warranty work a lot. So the over-the-air updates, remote pickup and delivery, simple maintenance packages, some of them offered by the brand to keep that customer, keep them loyal to you and to us. I think it makes the dealers a logical choice to come back to. The other thing that makes our company really different is we're the #1 brand in the United States for commercial vehicles. We're the only brand that does Class 1 to Class 7. And I got to tell you, the smart Ford dealers I know, they are into the commercial business. And the ones that haven't and are now building truck service centers for ambulances and the businesses in their community, they are doing really well. 24-hour parts, remote tire change and service capability, those are really important businesses for us. And you know, a lot of the Fords that are on the road in a place like New York City, people tune them out. Vans, pickup trucks. But they build our communities. This is very noble work, noble people who run these businesses. And for dealers who are really leaning into the commercial space, I think is a huge opportunity for our dealer network, even ones in urban environments. You know, you see all those white trucks and you're like, oh, that's maybe not the sexiest business. It's a great business, especially the after-sales piece of it. You know, when those trucks go down, that company isn't making money. They will pay dearly to get that product back on the road. So the commercial business, to me, is one of the unsung heroes for our industry, and especially for Ford. The biggest change that the OE needs to make is reducing complexity of our business. You know, why does this happen? Well, if a product planner says, if I add this feature, I guess X amount of profit, then we add complexity. And even if we jam the complexity down when we launch a product, as soon as it goes in the market and competitors start reacting to it, we add complexity. And at the brand level, we allow people to build those snowflakes. And they're falling all day. And all that complexity is maddening for the dealers. It complicates our incentive programs. It complicates the choice for customers. And it's time for us, especially at Ford, to get really serious about complexity. We can't just delegate this to brands like Honda anymore. Ford Motor Company has to be one of the simplest companies to do business with, and it starts with our product complexity. So you have my commitment that that's what our team at Ford is working on. And we think it is a big game changer for our dealers who live with an incredible amount of complexity. Most of our dealers, they have to hire third-party people to do the ordering. That's how complex it is at Ford. One of the most stressful things about our salespeople is just finding the incentive that's appropriate for the customer. And it's because of our complexity, our aged stock. So much of it comes from the complexity that we put in the product. And that's our responsibility. The other thing that I think is going to change, we think is going to change, is the used car business is changing in the US. We have multiple tiers of used cars. We have a new channel being created of nearly new vehicles through the dealers. Many brands have bet big on this, others have bet smaller like Ford. But they're a great alternative when the prices of new cars have gone up so much. Those nearly new products are a great bridge for people to stay in the brand. So we have to acknowledge the growing complexity of the used car business and have really good programs to support our dealers in all the different levels, which we don't today yet. The other thing I want to talk about is the importance of fixed operations. It's always been a key part of any 20 group, but I think it's going to get much more important, a lot more important. Today, 45% of gross profit in our Ford dealers comes from fixed operations, and you know it goes up when the cycle of the industry goes down. It's super important, just like a used car business. But I want to explain why I think it's going to become more important. The average age of the vehicle fleet in the US is over 12 years now. In states like California, it's much higher than that. And I believe the franchise businesses can't compete with the aftermarket. But we have real problems to solve. The technician shortage is not a small thing. The new reality of recalls is jamming a lot of your service departments. The requirements for service certification by brands is a big issue for our companies. The complexity of that. And the new EV business, the vehicles are very different. They have 40% less moving parts. Most of the parts in an electric car are not thermal. They replace the engines and the transmissions and the differentials, the parts of the vehicle that get hot and sometimes break. It's the EV business is our business goes slowly but surely into the EV business. It really changed the back end of the dealerships. Yeah, these are headwinds, but I think there's a lot of new opportunities. All these connected cars are going to offer services. It should be not strange at all that someone who owns a Ford picks up their phone and presses a button on the Ford Pass app to get the car washed while they're at work. It's an easy thing. It should be an easy thing. I can think of hundreds of services, push to services like that customers would love. And I believe the dealers should sell those and make a great living off selling those contracts. And those relationships are going to become important, just like the traditional after-sales business as. Those service contracts, that is a big piece of where I see dealers going, as well as mobility services. The connected car is coming. It's already here. At Ford, it's going to be on 100% of our vehicles. We started with Ford Pass. We've learned a lot about customers, how they use the app, and we made a lot of adjustments. Elena's here, who led that effort for the company. And we see people who use the app a lot more loyal to the dealers, a lot more loyal to the brand. And I think the more we can invest in integrating that experience between the dealer and the brand and the customer with their cell phone, is going to be very important for us, especially as we get the connected car. Because why? Because we can digitally target people. We know their behavior online. We know exactly where they go, what they do, and it is a huge opportunity to create relationships, which we have just begun to explore. Already at Ford Pass, we have 3.5 million members and growing fast. They control the car with it. They increasingly control the relationship with the brand, and how that feeds into the dealership network is going to become more important. The other thing I want to talk about is the growing importance of working together between the OEs and the dealership leaders, owners on IT solutions. I used to think there was some beautiful system that we could create to compete against TrueCar or something. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think it's probably a suite of IT tools. And I can't imagine if all the dealers went out and tried to develop that suite by themselves. I think the combination of the dealers and the OE working together in those IT tools is really important. We just have to get kind of on the other side of that invisible line, as I said, and working together in a new way. Because if not, everyone except for us can make a lot of money. It's time for us to really hold hands and at least for the Ford dealers, to build an IT solution tool set that we know is good for customers, good for the dealership. And we already am starting that, but I could see it really becoming more and more important. I also want to tell you that it's time for us to reconsider the facilities and standards. Click-to-mortar is a real thing. Being leaner about facilities is going to be more important. Our capability of offering services outside of the dealership is going to become a core competency for any dealer. And I like to say this. I said to my son, Jameson, he said, "Dad, what do you think the mistakes you make at work?" I said, one of them was, I bet you I look back, not in the moment, but I look back 20 years from now, and I regret asking some of the dealers to build big dealerships. I loved those stores. And people loved them too. They came in, they loved the store. But what if over the next 10 or 15 years we start transitioning to a leaner model that's more and more outside? Or if we have a truck service center, it's maybe not in the fanciest part of town. I think we're going to need really nice facilities forever. I just don't know if they need to be as big as they have been in the future. And I'm challenging our team at Ford to think through what that transition looks like. Because we all know people love doing business in a beautiful facility. I do. But I also don't want that to be in 20 years the wrong move. And it's different in China than the US. I mean, we could talk about in the Q&A. This is a very unique situation in each country. But I'm seeing more and more customers loving brands even outside of the store. And we as a brand have to understand what that means for facility standards. The last thing I want to talk about is how does the electrification and AV fit into kind of the evolution of the dealership model in the US. We're all investing heavily. It's required in a way for compliance. Some brands like Ford are going way beyond compliance. We think that what we've learned from this first cycle electric cars is that the commodity ones aren't selling that well, but the ones that are emotional, that's where you want to compete. The early adopters, they want great product. They don't want a science project. So our electrification is really going to focus on electrifying work, because we believe commercial customers will pay for lower ownership, cost of ownership, and very emotional product, like performance or off-roaders. We feel like those are the kind of segments where Ford can electrify the product and give people the V8 performance of a Mustang, with electric powertrain. And we have our first one. We approved the design just a couple weeks ago. And we can't wait to show everyone what it looks like. And I think it's going to be a heck of a product. But the question is, how will that change, the dealership model? Some brands don't even have franchise dealers like Tesla. In fact, they don't even spend money on advertising. How do we compete from a cost standpoint with that model? Well, I believe we can do it by making sure that customers have the service that you've always offered. Electric car customers are the same as everyone, especially the higher end or the work customers. They want that service. They want that relationship. They want someone to stand behind the product. And increasingly with charging and connected services, you have a lot of new profit and revenue streams as dealers that you didn't have in the past. Charging the vehicle everywhere is going to be a thing. And selling services like charging services, I believe, are a real opportunity for you, as well as a mobility provider. So if you could provide, for example, the local businesses in your area with a Chariot van service, white box it, so they could put the company logo on the side of the Transit and offer a business. You could run our franchise model and run those Chariots for those businesses to get their employees around the campus or to their parking lot or wherever. You should be part of that business model and partake in the profitability of that mobility service. One thing that we've learned, we've been running non-emergency medical service. If any of you have had older parents or friends who need to get to dialysis, it's really difficult if they don't own a vehicle. And there are really a fabric throughout this country of people who provide services. They're not ambulances, but the doctors and hospitals pay for them because it's so expensive for them to have these patients be late. Well, at Ford, we've been running transit vans for these kind of businesses, and it's a really great business. It's kind of hidden from day-to-day life, but more and more people need to get to their medical appointments, and they're too old to drive, or too young to drive, or too busy, or they can't afford it. And that's a mobility service that our dealers could be part of the profit model in, if we think ahead. I want to talk a little bit about Ford because coming back to the company from Europe, it's a really exciting moment for us. We were the first, at least of the domestic three, we were the one who didn't go bankrupt, and Alan and the team bet on new product. So in 08, 09, and 10, we had all new showroom. We brought our products from Europe. We introduced C-Max, a lot of hybrids. We brought the new Explorer in. We had a whole new lineup. And then our competitors who went through the crisis, they invested a little bit later than us. And the fact of the matter is, because of that product guidance, we are now about to redo our entire showroom at Ford. Though Escape and Explorer, like 6, 7 years old, we have an all-new lineup coming. 75% of our lineup is going to be all new. Our average age of our vehicles at Ford goes from 5.7 years to 3.3. It's the best in the industry. And we're going to be competing in certain subsegments, not on all segments. We are doubling down on authentic off-roaders, performance vehicles, and commercial vehicles. We're adding many new nameplates that we do not have today, like Bronco and Ranger, products that we don't even offer today. So over the next several years, Charlie and his colleagues at Ford have a great opportunity to grow again and grow in parts of the business that we're really good at. And I just can't wait to start launching these products. In fact, we already have a Navigator Expedition. And, you know, it's interesting. Everyone talks about our pickup truck business, where we dominate. But just think about this. The F-Series revenue at $41 billion in the US is bigger than Coca-Cola or Nike. Just the franchise, just the F-Series business is bigger than Coke or Nike. We have a fantastic franchise. And we are #1 and have been in the whole commercial space, including vans, for 33 straight years. And we have absolutely no intention. We have a new Transit coming. We're going to be adding Ranger. We already have a fresh F-Series. We have a new one on the way. Our Super Duty is by far the freshest in the market, and we're just about to update it again. We're going to add a diesel to light duty F-Series in the coming months. We have an incredible franchise, and we think it's really special. But to add to that, we're going to refresh our whole SUV lineup. There are two more important products, no more important products for SUVs is the new Escape and the new Explorer. And we're going to be launching the Explorer ST sport versions. It's not just AMG or the luxury products. We believe a mainstream brand like Ford can compete in the performance business. Raptor has shown us that we can do that. And we have a growing number of authentic off-roaders. We have the new Bronco coming, a whole family, as well as a small off-roader, very authentic off-roader that has the same kind of theme as Raptor, but just a smaller SUV. We're going to have a whole lineup, including continue to leverage the brand of Raptor. Raptor, I know it sounds kind of funny, right? It's like a performance truck. So, do you know last year, Raptor outsold the entire car lineup at Porsche? Just Raptor. It's not a small thing. It was a very small program we did on a shoestring budget, like all good things usually in our industry, and that thing has turned into a powerhouse globally for us. And now we're outselling Porsche cars in North America with just one performance truck, Raptor. And we can use that brand under many, many products, not just F-Series. So this authentic off-road space is really interesting space for our company in the coming year. We're going to take hybrids from a very rational product, and we're going to put it in Mustang to add performance, and we're going to put it in the F-Series so that people don't have to lug a generator around. Hybrid is going to move from being a fuel economy play for Ford to being a capability play. If you want the funnest drive Mustang, you're going to buy the hybrid version. If you want the most capable F-Series, and you don't want to have a generator that costs $5,000 on the job site, just buy an F-150 hybrid and plug in your tools. You don't need a generator. We believe that hybrid technology can be used differently than just for fuel economy. And yes, it helps our hedge against fuel for our SUVs. We're also going to be standardizing Copilot 360, which, as you can see from the feature set here, no other brand has that. All those features will be standard on most of our Fords. It's what we should do as a brand. And I'm glad that we're doing it now. So the bottom line is, I believe that dealers have a bright future in our industry. But we have to evolve together. And there's one thing that is becoming more important than ever, is the creativity of all the dealers. And I believe it's really time for Ford to grow again in North America. We have a great product lineup. We have the best dealers. And I think we have a fantastic opportunity in the next couple of years to not only evolve together and find new revenue sources and cut our costs together, but also to grow. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you.